Welcome to this episode of Sunny's Silver Linings. Sunny's guest today is James Pearson. James is the president of the Computer Center, and with over 30 years of industry experience, he has dedicated himself to IT and cybersecurity in small businesses, helping companies protect themselves against cyber attacks. James is also the author of 3 books in this subject. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kaila. Over to you, Sunny.
So James, thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast, and I'm super excited about having a conversation with you today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sunny. I really appreciate being here. Thanks for the invitation.
So let's start with getting to know you a little bit more, and I want to know your entrepreneurial journey. So can you share your entrepreneurial journey with us?
Yeah, so it actually started pretty early. I think 5th or 6th grade. I knew at that point that at some point I was going to own a business, and I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I was always dabbling in something. My great-grandfather started a heating and cooling business in Upper Michigan. My grandfather worked there, my father worked there, my uncle owned his own business. So I don't know if that influenced me or not, but I always knew that this is what I was going to do. So even through college and high school, I always had some sort of side hustle going on, some little business that was generating some revenue and doing something for me and my family in the background. A lot of online stuff back early in the 90s. I was doing a lot of online sales and marketing, and so I always had something going on. When I started working in IT, which is about 30 years ago, I started in sales and I did some training. And then I ended up at the Computer Center through a series of events. And originally I started here at the Computer Center as an engineer in 1999. So I came from another retail location, and I came here. And I did some training for them. So I restarted their training program a little bit, which is a passion of mine. And then I was just an engineer, just like, so many of us got our starts as IT engineers. I was out crawling around under desks and fixing computers and networks. And when the owner of the company retired in 2009, I was in a position, we made a very generous deal that he made with me to pass on the company to me. And so I purchased it from him in 2009 and he retired and I've been here ever since.
Yeah. So you had that entrepreneurial spirit, from the beginning, when you talk about you were even before, owning this business, you always had something entrepreneurial going on. And do you think that, like having that in the family or just kind of being surrounded with other entrepreneurs that influenced your life to kind of encourage you to explore entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was always interested in it. It always just seemed like the right thing for me, that I would always be working for myself in one way or another, not necessarily with employees, that wasn't the thought originally, but at some point I figured I would be running the show or running the business. So a lot of my side hustles were just me doing things, trying things out, testing things out. Even when I was working in previous jobs, they tended to be the managerial positions. They tended to be leadership positions then looking back. So yeah, I definitely think that even early on, that family business probably influenced me, that this is just the way things are work and happen. And of course, when I had the opportunity to buy the company, I said, well, I really don't want to go work for anybody else. I don't want to go have a job interview. I really want that control over my life and to reap those benefits. And so, yeah, it was definitely a long lifetime of being involved in that mindset, I think, is what led me to this point.
When did you implement EOS in your business?
Boy, I want to say it's been about 4 years now, maybe a little longer. Okay. And, I think we're constantly implementing, right? We're constantly, improving that process. But yeah, it's been a good 4 years or so.
And did it help your business evolve from the process, people, and structure point of view?
Yeah, it really did. I think a couple of things it did for us and for me. So, I have some other friends in the industry that have, maybe like you and I were talking about earlier off camera, a spouse that's working in the business that's supportive, or they have business partners, and I have a couple of friends that say, "Man, James, we don't know how you do it without a business partner." And one of the couple of things that happened when we adopted EOS is it made me realize that even though I'm the sole owner of the company, I'm not the sole person here. Mm. And so I was able to build a leadership team, which, Wickman talks about is this leadership team. Now, we're not big, so there's 2 other people on that team right now. But those are 2 people that I trust, have been with me for a long time, have great input. And so I have these 2 additional people where I can come to and say, here's a true business challenge, and I know one of the things I appreciated from the previous owner is that he was very honest, and he would share financials and numbers and State of the Union addresses with us. And when things were bad, he would let us know, and things were good, he would let us know. Yeah. And EOS has helped us to do that with the KPIs and the tracking. It's also given us that focus, that 90-day focus. Here's what we know is an issue. And, we have our list, our IDS list that, we continue to tick things off of, and it's just always kind of this moving target. But it really gives us a structure to sit down and formally say, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? And how is that going to move us forward? Yeah. And so we're all rowing on the same page. That's a big part of it, is we're all rowing together. We're all rowing in the same direction. We have a common goal and a common vision. And that really has helped us just move forward and grow and overcome some big challenges throughout the years.
Yeah, and it gives a little bit more, I think, clarity in terms of where you are, where you're going, and you can measure, like success measures are in numbers. And numbers don't lie. There's no ambiguity, so if from revenue point of view, from EBITDA point of view, once those numbers are very clear and documented, and that's what EOS gives you as a company scorecard, then everyone knows, collectively what success looks like and what is their contribution to that success, that organization success, their success. And they have this connective tissue when you look at the company scorecard and how their department or their role is contributing to that company scorecard. So it brings a lot more clarity. And when you were talking about trusting the team, once everyone is on the same page in terms of where those, how they're contributing, the role clarity and what they have to achieve as a result, then you can give them that autonomy that they need to produce that result. You can trust them. And a lot of leaders, I see that, James, that, partners when I work with, the problem that they are experiencing is not the person. It's more, clarity for that person. Even that person don't know coming on Monday morning that, are they being successful? Are they being a good team member? Are they contributing effectively? Because it's the lack of numbers clarity and role clarity for that numbers. And I'm glad that you have EOS and sharing that it's helping your business make a difference. And let's talk about a little bit more now. The numbers are clear. You're trusting your team. You have really good thing going on there. Now, from the culture point of view, especially in this, the environment that we're living in, where there are a lot of people still working from home, and a lot of partners that I talk to, James, they are having hard time with their team's buy-in to come back to office. And what I know about you is that you brought your team back in July, August of last year. And again, I think that team bonding spirit, relationship, that must have played a role, because if some entrepreneurs, some leaders are having hard time bringing their people back to office, even now in June, end of June 2021, and so, but you must have done something very, very different. So can you talk to us about what helped you get buy-in from your team to come back to the office last year?
Yeah, absolutely. So like everybody else in, March, we all kind of scattered to the wind. I think for the most part, I was the only one here in the office. It was like a ghost town downtown, but I was here deliveries and the occasional client, and everybody else was remote. And like everybody else, we did that for, like you said, up until about July or August. And then what we found is that despite our teams meetings and, well, first of all, what we did is we started increasing our team huddle. So we were having 2 a day. So we started doing one every morning as opposed to just a team meeting weekly. So now we have our unstuck meeting in the morning, every morning. And then we started having a check-in in the afternoon. Hey, how did it go? Where are we at with everything? And that helped us, I think, get through that because we were communicating. We leveraged, of course, Teams real heavily, which I think most partners are now. So we were, Teams for us can be pretty lighthearted, and I just let that go. I think that just moves along. People are just chatting and talking, that water cooler talk sometimes. So we really kind of kept that going remotely. But ultimately, there came a point where we said, we just miss seeing each other. We miss being together. Yeah, we can do our jobs remotely. And we saw, and back at that time, we had one team member that wasn't doing this well, but we saw that the core group of people were productive and doing well. So it wasn't that. It was really just, we miss being here. We miss being together. And so we made a decision after everybody had a conversation, we were all comfortable that we would come back together. Now, I'm fortunate because I have a big space right now and everybody has their own office. So we made some agreements as to how we were going to, behave with cleaning and mask wearing. And once everybody was comfortable with that, we came back to the office. We still have our Teams meetings, partly because, we have a staff member from IT by Design who obviously is never going to be here in our office. So we still have our Teams meetings, and, we just do that from our individual offices. But we still have the opportunity to, bump into each other in the hall or to, walk down and socially distance, have a conversation, or even have a meeting in the conference room. Where we could spread out a little bit and have those meetings. So that really showed some camaraderie, of course. And then we just decided that everybody was comfortable with doing it this way. Let's go ahead and do it. We've still remained flexible. So now I don't think that's ever going to go away. So now that we've proven that we can do this remotely if we need to, now we have some options where somebody may just even have something that, is going to keep them at home, maybe an appointment or something like that. Now we can work at home and still keep that, but we're back and we're here 99% of the time right now in person, live and in person.
No, thanks for sharing that, James. With the teams, one thing that I hear from partners is that Zooming time, team time is becoming a business problem for them. Do you see, so there are pros and cons, right? And a lot of people, especially where they don't have any kind of meeting rhythm implemented and they're not very effective in their meeting rhythms, they are struggling more than people where they have some kind of structure behind meeting. So have you experienced anything where productivity have gone down because of a lot of meeting time and a lot of people just had more meetings until 5 p.m. and then work has to be done after 5 p.m.? Have you experienced it?
We really haven't. So our leadership team meetings, we have once a week with that small group, and those are very EOS structured. So they're 90 minutes. The quarterly and annual meetings we try and do, on an off day. We just found that, like a Saturday, if everybody's willing to come in, that for us, it's very uninterrupted time. But the daily huddles that we were having, I think a couple of things happened. First of all, we're now, even though they're not in an EOS structure right now, it's a very quick opportunity for us to go around the room and say, who's got an issue, who has something. And if nobody does, we just move on. We've also gotten very good, I think, about saying, if you and I, for example, we're going to talk about an issue, and I say, hey, Sunny, I have this issue. Can we talk about it for a minute? And maybe we started to get down the technical weeds a little bit, and now we became respectful of each other's time and said, okay, let's just take this offline and not tie up everybody else here in this meeting. This is obviously between you and I. We can talk about this later and not tie up everybody else. So we've been very good at that. And candidly, we communicate throughout the day. And, sometimes we'll skip that afternoon meeting if there's no new news or if we're super busy. So even though we've got them on the schedule, they're not hard and fast all the time, and we can be somewhat flexible. But I'd say overall, we are not finding it inefficient. And then again, being here, you still have that benefit of, okay, it's just more convenient for me to get up and walk down the hall and ask you a question and, look over your shoulder and see something now that we can do that again. So yeah, I think we've handled it surprisingly well. I'm really proud of how we've done all of this.
So James, what did you do? We have a NOC help desk team here in our bullpen, and in a normal world where people are working right next to each other in more like a pod structure, one engineer having hard time, they can just call someone else or level one. So rather than kind of really having customer wait too long, they will just ask the person sitting right next door. So there's a lot of collaboration happens in a pod structure. In a remote structure environment, like having your techs working on an issue, how did you handle that collaboration, or how did your technical people help each other when they're working from home and they need to help each other with the tickets? Did you come up with anything that helped you?
Yeah, and I don't think that we did anything amazing or fantastic. We use Teams a lot. So there is constant chatter on Teams. Hey, I have an issue with this. Hey, I have this. So there's a lot of that back and forth. And somebody will say, hey, does anybody know? Can anybody help me with? And those tend to be relatively quick and easy without being super interruptive. We've found that relying on the chat feature has helped us a lot. And then, of course, if we need to take it further, then somebody will say, hey, I'm just going to jump on a quick Teams call with you. Let me just give you a call. So we almost find that we're using the Teams calling and video feature more than phones these days, just because it's so convenient. So yeah, I don't think that we've done anything extraordinary. It's just, again, that I got your back and we're all here in this together. And as long as we can remember that I have knowledge that this person doesn't, and I have a skill set that this person doesn't. And that doesn't mean that they're less of an engineer or that they're a bad engineer or bad person. It just means that I've got something that I can help with maybe more efficiently. And so as long as people aren't upset about other people coming to them, which I think the team I have right now feels very good about that. We, again, share each other, share with each other a lot, then it works real well, even in that remote environment.
Yeah, so you use technology. You kind of, what I'm hearing is that accomplished almost the same thing with chat or just calling them and probably screen sharing using the Teams. If one engineer need to look at what's going on exactly in that moment, right? So leveraging technology to create that kind of virtual pod type of environment. So that's beautiful. Now, one thing, James, that when we were talking about your overall growth strategy, and you are an author and you have written multiple books, and that was very, very interesting. I don't see too many partners that I work with in the channel where MSP owners, they are authors as well. And one thing that you shared was not only it helped you as an individual, as a professional, but it helped your business grow as well. So can you talk to me about what books you have written and why and how it helped your business? So
I have 3 books related to the business. One is Essential Cybersecurity for Your Small Business. I have an expanded version of that, Essential Cybersecurity for Your Law Firm. And then I have another one specifically for law firms, The Lawyer's Technology Trap, how to turn your technology pain into a billable gain. And my goal with each of those, was first of all, I love to write, I love to teach, I love to train. That's my passion. But I really wanted to use these as tools to pre-sell a little bit. Here's my philosophy. Here's why somebody should do business with us, or why you should implement our particular philosophy of security, for example, with the 2 essential security books. And but what I also found was that they opened some other doors for me as I did this. So initially it was, here, Mr. Client, here's Mr. Prospect. Let me send this out, when we begin our conversation. So for the Robin Robbins members here, she has us send out a shock and awe box with and now there's a book in it, and it's got my picture on it, and I'm the author, and I sign it. And so here's what I found. I found that a lot of people will never read that book. Doesn't matter. To me, it's a $5 business card, and it is significantly more impressive. We have this opinion that if somebody has written a book, boy, they must be special. They must be knowledgeable. They must be an expert. They must be, and having written one, I can tell you, there's a whole lot of time involved, right, in doing it. So we have this perception of authors that elevates them above other people. And so I found that people were now all of a sudden saying, wow, that's, even if they didn't read the book, that was an impressive door opener, right? That was a conversation starter. That was something that made me stand apart. The other thing is that, and I'll tell you a story. I had a prospect where I sat down with them, and they had received that. And literally that prospect said to me, well, James, so here's what we have to do. And he almost verbatim read from my book and looked up at me, because that's what you told me in your book. So he, one of the few people that read it cover to cover. And I didn't have to do anything to sell that client on that solution. He had already sold himself by reading my book and said, here's what it is. So that's one way. The other thing is, I've gotten speaking engagements. I'm a regular guest on the local radio station here. And I work with lawyers and the Wisconsin Bar Association. One of the things I did when I kind of got introduced to those people is I found somebody and I sent them my book. And now I'm giving presentations. I think I have about 5 presentations to the Wisconsin Bar different associations this year because, of that. Here's an introduction. It's gotten me other writing businesses for the Wisconsin Lawyers Magazine. I've now written a few articles for them. So it's opened these doors that I don't think were there before. And it's, it's my $5 impressive business card. Here you go. I wrote a book. This is why you should listen to me.
So is that you focus on legal vertical for your customers? You probably have a lot of legal customers.
Yeah, I have, a couple of my favorite customers are lawyers. And of course, as a small company, we only have so much in the marketing budget, right? So a couple of years ago, my team and I said, well, we don't want to niche forever, but we do want to niche, so this allows me some good focus. Let's spend our advertising dollars there. Let's, go to those meetings. Let's, gives me a way to focus. And that was kind of the idea behind there. And it's working. It took a while to break into that industry. They're not a trusting industry, but it did take a while, and I'm starting to see the benefits of that. They say, "Oh, I saw you speak. Oh, I read your book," or "Oh, you presented to our monthly bar association meeting. I'd like to talk to you about security." So it was just a way to focus.
It makes a huge difference, especially when you have a niche, and it's more of educating your niche customers and being that expert in that area and earning that right to be that expert in your niche. And it's a very, very creative and strategic way of growth. And And one thing that I have noticed, James, is that we have a lot of similarities in our workplace cultures and our approach, leadership approach, because we also focus on education-based with our Build It. Education-based, we lead our marketing with education. And from the culture point of view as well, is titleless leadership here. And everyone can do all type of tasks here when it comes to just being there for each other. And I love that. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your experience, very, very valuable insights. And I appreciate your time and I appreciate your partnership.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sunny.
Thank you, James.